Hey, this is the antisocial socialite back at it again. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you are new to the channel or you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for, darling? Hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, so when I get to running this mouth, baby, you are in the loop. You see the title, you know what time it is. Swirlers, you benefit from another man's patriarchy too. You know, recently I've been on a little bit of a anti-colorism crying queen crusade, and this comment has come up, and I've heard it before and I haven't heard it for a while because, you know, there's a lot of channels that I don't really have time for. But this comment came up again about how women, black women, would rest in their femininity more because if the men create an environment in which they feel comfortable, that's how they will be. They will be more feminine. And the thing is, these guys are running away from black women to non-black women, saying they're more feminine, they're more cooperative, and therefore these black men don't want to build in their own community. They just want to benefit from the patriarchy in another man's community when they date out. And I thought to myself, on some level that's kind of true, because obviously, you know, these feminine women grew up in a more patriarchal society. But the question always has to be asked, why is the black community a matriarchy? First and foremostly, if you mention the fact that the black community in the West is, you know, female-led, it's female-centered or gynocratic, and that, you know, the heads of the family, the dominant forces in the family structure, and obviously therefore the overarching society is feminine, is matriarchal, you have a lot of black women that become very resistant to that idea. They become annoyed. They say it's not really a matriarchy, it's more of a failed patriarchy. Well, if that's the case, the first question that needs to be asked is, when was the black community in the West, in particular in the States, patriarchal? When was it truly a system where men were providers and protectors and leaders and the women were just submissive and cooperative? You see, some will say, well, the women had to stick with the men because there was racism, there was Jim Crow, you know, women didn't have a choice, they didn't have freedom of social mobility, they weren't liberated, so they had to stay with the men out of necessity. So was that a true patriarchy, or was that just, you know, we all need to survive because we all have a common enemy out here? Okay, so to be honest with you, from my understanding in the States in particular, there's never been a true patriarchal system, not because men were failures, but because the women were given disproportionate levels of support in order to go forward. I mean, bankers invested in what is now Spelman University. Women could marry out before men could. It was socially acceptable for, you know, more socially acceptable for a woman to get with a white man than a black man to get with a white woman. Obviously, slavery lasted hundreds of years in America, and it was really only in the last 80 years of slavery, which is still a long time, that women were really being brought over like that. So this idea of a failed patriarchy in the West is something that is just erroneous. It's another deflection to take attention away from the fact that women want the leadership position in the black community, but they don't want the responsibility that comes with that leadership. Now, when it comes onto this idea of the black man who dates out, he's saving himself, he is benefiting from another man's patriarchy. First and foremostly, we need to remember that these men were raised in an environment where masculinity, to some degree, I mean, in the West, masculinity is under attack all the time, but masculinity was something that was prized, it's treasured, and it's respected. Okay? You are raised to be a masculine man, not because you're trying to get a woman, because the woman is not the central focus of your masculinity. Your masculinity is not determined by how many women you sleep with. Your masculinity is not determined by what caliber of woman you can attract. You are required to reach a level of manhood because you're a male. And when you get to a certain age or a certain stage, you are expected to start exhibiting manhood. And for the females, it's the same thing. When you reach a certain age, you have to understand you are a woman now. You're not a woman to attract a man. You are a woman because you're female and you've come to a certain age. Now, when it comes on to women of other cultures being submissive, cooperative, and feminine, they are not necessarily feminine because of their male partners or peers, you know. They're not feminine because they're trying to necessarily attract a man. They're raised to be feminine, they're raised to be wives, they're taught how to be mothers because it's demonstrated to them throughout their childhood in more cases than not. And culturally, they have examples set for them. They have extended family, older generations of women who've been successful in marriage, who can give them, you know, sound advice and words of wisdom. In the culture they see, probably even in mainstream media, the idea of the nuclear family. And marriage, settling down and having a family is commonplace practice. It's not a novel concept. It's not unique. It's not the, you know, they're not pushing the new normal where anything is constituting a family. No, a family is a husband and a wife with some kids, okay? And as a result of that standard, the women fall in line with that standard. And contrary to popular belief, a lot of black men still want the traditional standard. They want the 2.4 kids with the dog, you know, a couple of holidays a year. They go to work, the wife is there. That's what they're looking for. And unfortunately, because a lot of black women who have really subscribed to feminism, you know, completely, 100% invested, they are now trying to substitute, you know, things that men don't want or need for what they actually want or need. This is why, you know, I'm not a pusher of interracial dating, but I'm mature enough to understand that if people are unhappy and they cannot find what they're looking for in the environment they're in, it's better that they move and they seek out relationships elsewhere than to stay single. There's no point to stay single when there's a big world out there, and if you can't find what you're looking for in your own community, you can date interculturally or even interracially. But there's this hypocrisy when it comes on to women dating out, not necessarily just interculturally, but you know, the pro-swirl team, you know, they're all about elevating the white man. At the end of the day, those white men were raised in the same environment that the white women that black men go to date are going for. I mean, I know it's not just white women, you know, Asian, Hispanic, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, the women and the men of other cultures, they are raised under the same system in the same way the black woman and the black man is raised under a particular system. And where the system in the black community does not work, other cultures outside of the black community, they have a functioning system. They have a code of conduct. They have certain principles. They have an understanding of masculine and feminine gender roles. They understand the concept of traditionalism. They actually like each other. They want to be together. They aspire to build family units. And as a result of these conventions and these norms, they become dateable, marryable people. In the black community, we have a very superficial outlook when it comes to dating. We highly prioritize things that are not important, especially in the long term. And the things that we really need to be talking about and critical of, those are the things that are not being addressed. It really, you know, all right, I'm not going to, throw too much shade, but I mean, we have channels out here every day talking about installing lace fronts and sticking on eyelashes and, you know, celebrities who are fake actors. They're individuals who are paid to act. They go to drama school, they learn to sing, dance and act. And, you know, once their music career flags, then they just go and do a bit of acting. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they're not real people, but yet black people sit down and consume this garbage all day. And if there are, there's content out there that's actually going to help us build the black community, they're labeled as nerdy or fringe or weird. And it's like the priorities are backwards. That's why a lot of the times the black community cannot progress. So there's this double standard when it comes onto swirlers who say, when black men date out, they're benefiting from another man's patriarchy. Because at the end of the day, that white male or that Asian male or Hispanic male, whatever male that you date outside of the black community, they were also raised under another man's patriarchy. And it was that, this is where this is really going. In a society that is patriarchal, the women know their place. And that doesn't sound like a nice way to say it, but that's what it is. They understand that they're playing a secondary position, and from that secondary position, the husband can go out, he can divide, he can conquer, he can bring back the spoils, and she just enjoys the benefits of being a submissive, cooperative helpmate. So at the end of the day, the children are looked after. She's at home when they come home from school. Dinner is on the table for her husband. She's sexually satisfying him. She's making sure the things around the home are taken care of. And he brings home the literal and the figurative bacon for her. Okay? She raises sons that she invests in. She helps that son. And the first thing she does as a good mother is ensure that he has a good father. So in the black community, where you have a significantly high proportion of single mothers, broken families, a lot of issues in there when it comes onto the nature of black women and their style of parenting as a whole, it's no wonder that it's very hard for traditional, conventional people to actually find love. The society and the current standards that we have are not conducive to healthy relationships. And because we have broken families, we cannot have a functioning society. And I get really tired of the swirling crew who keep saying this thing, well, when you date out, you're benefiting from another man's patriarchy. Because when you date a white man, you are also benefiting from the hard work. You see, you're not just benefiting from another man's patriarchy. Let me tell you the truth, right? You are not benefiting from another man's patriarchy. You are benefiting from another woman's submission. When those women choose to go to college, and they're not going to college just to get an education, they go to college to find a spouse and build with him. When she has those children and raises them correctly, she has sons and they become productive men that you can date as a black woman. You are benefiting from that woman's cooperation. You're benefiting from that woman's femininity. You are benefiting from that woman's submissiveness. You are benefiting from that woman's investment in her own children and her decent parenting. So it's time that people who go in for this whole, we should be angry with black men for leaving black women, it's full time to stop blaming the black man, stop blaming the white man, stop blaming any color of man. We as black women have to examine ourselves and see where we are failing, why our men are deciding that they would rather be with women that look nothing like us when they grew up around women like us. That's all I've got for this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.